everybody's guess.
He invented a sound that no one else has been able to duplicate.
Grunt, peep, clap, and poot.
Cheer my father on! Thank you! Thank you, good night!
I think a lot of people, if they had the opportunity, would do things exactly the way that I've been able to do them. The stuff that I put onto a record or a CD is a reflection of who and what I am and what I'm interested in. So it's in phase with my personality. It's real stuff. And to the extent that real stuff qualifies as art, that's the only connection. I don't set out to be artistic. Demand that people think or behave the way I do. I have just as many questions about my own ideas as other people might have about my ideas. You know? I'm not convinced that I'm absolutely right all the time, but I'll take the chance and state my opinion at the time that I have it. I may regret it later. I may even change my mind later, but I take a stand. Now, that's one of the things that sets me apart from contemporary music, because I'm willing to do that. And why? Because they've already called me every bad thing they can call me. What can they say? You know, they can't call me anything else. So what have I got to lose? I'll tell you what's on my mind. That's what I think. There it is.
Frank Zappa does tell us what's on his mind in this edition of Cover Story. Born in Baltimore, Frank's family moved to California when he was 10. There he discovered classical music, the drums, the guitar, and graduated from Antelope Valley High School, where he formed his first band, the Blackouts. In 1966, Frank Zappa recorded Freak Out, the Mothers of Invention's first album. It was an artistic and critical success that defied all the conventions of rock and roll. Meanwhile, privately, and almost conventionally, Frank and Gail, his wife, raised 4 children. Frank's written more than 300 songs, has a Grammy Award, his own record company, and a new album, Broadway the Hard Way. Today, Zappa speaks up loudly and often on many issues, including voter registration.
If you're 18 years old and you have not registered to vote, go do it.
So see what you...
Playing the drums. And then I changed to guitar when I was 18. Started playing drums when I was 12. Not like a drum set, but like orchestra percussion. So I was able to hear recordings of contemporary music when I was in high school. And the library that I went to had books on how to write music. It just showed you how to draw the notes, what all the symbols meant, and I learned it. A teenage band at this high school. If you can imagine a high school in the 50s with 2,500 students in it and no teenage band. Now we're talking about a business opportunity here. So I put together a racially mixed ensemble. Saw a need for a certain type of music in a community that I thought might enjoy hearing something other than Elvis Presley for a minute, and started there.
Was always rebelling when that's all I believed in. I mean, he was always going one step further and stretching your imagination to the breaking point. You know, we would have conversations and he would get things out of me that I didn't even know were festering in there. I would just come spewing out with all this. Some of it was really interesting and amazing, and that's where a lot of the songs came from. He would encourage it. He was really a master at that, drawing people out and helping them to realize who they were and their potential.
My Uncle Joe moved out here from Maryland to go into the restaurant business with my father when the thing flopped bad. And Uncle Joe wanted to move back to Maryland, and he had bought a Bel Air station wagon. Now, it was a nice car, and the payments were a little rough, but, you know, I helped out Uncle Joe, and I got a car, and I got a license. Now, the bad thing to remember is, if you're a band leader, and you have the station wagon, that means you're the roadie, too. because you got the most room in the back of your car for the drums, the amplifier, So I learned the business from the ground up. I believe that every human being, to some degree, wants to express his or herself. They have feelings inside of them that they would like to share with somebody, if only they had a vehicle. Some people would do it by doing a painting, writing a poem, expressing themselves through dance, sports, whatever, but there's something in you that wants to come out, and it's not because you want to brag about it, but you say, this could be the best of who or what I am. These are my good ideas. The reason my name is connected with rock and roll is that is the marketplace in which my material is sold and consumed. But if you take a look at rock and roll and what it means to most people, I'm not part of that. The type of stuff that I do, there is no other marketplace in which I could function. I can't earn a living in the serious music world. I mean, you know what kind of denizens they got in there. There's no market at all in the jazz world. So I'm stuck plying my trade in pretty unfamiliar and actually hostile territory. Who was a singer, and he got into a fight with the guitar player, and they needed a replacement guitar player, so he called me, and I went down there and sat in, and I suggested they should stop playing all their bar band songs and learn some new material, and, let's go make a record. And the guy who was actually the leader of the band was a sax player named Davey Coronado, and in his wisdom, he said, if you do that, you'll lose your jobs, because these club owners won't hire a band that plays original material. So he decided to, he'd go on and do something else, and the Remnants stayed together to form the Basic Mothers of Invention. The only way that you could work in those days was to play the same 10 songs that every bar owner wanted to hear. They were convinced that it was like a mantra. The minute you play Louie Louie, people will order beer. There was something about it. And they were convinced that anybody who deviated from that was interfering with commerce and should therefore be punished. And we were punished consistently until we mastered Louie Louie. And no matter what else we played, so long as we hit Louie Louie a few times a night, we get cling to a job, no matter how terrible it was. The staff producer for MGM and the manager convinced him to come to the Whiskey Go-Go just to see our band. So he walked in the door. It was right around closing time, and we were in the middle of our big boogie number, which bore no resemblance to the rest of our repertoire at all. And he walked in. He liked it. He said he would sign the group, just like that, for an advance of $2,500. Unreal. $2,500? I mean, think about it. He leaves. He goes back to New York, and I think the next time I see him is on the day of the recording session. And we're scraping inside the piano and doing weird noises, and people are screaming, and I can see through the window that he's on the phone to New York going, it's not exactly a white blues band. I won't say that I tricked MGM into signing us because, a man made a snap decision, and I think he made the right decision.
Well, I should say that Frank Zappa's music can be defined in two different ways. One is his mother of invention and that kind of music which is really advanced jazz, advanced rock and roll, but it's closer to jazz than to rock and roll. That's one kind. But then a totally different kind is modern music, you see, which really follows the line of modern inventions, not modern inventions, but modern inventions.
They, got a little bit more familiar with the symbolism involved, and they knew that what we had to say related in some way to their lives.
It's anything you want it to be. It's just, there's no name for it. It's Frank Zappa's music. It's not pop or hip or, it's jazz or rock. It's Frank Zappa's music. It's just his own genius, music. It's amazing.
I'll tumble for you.
They would rather opt for the normal security of being an artist connected with a record company and think that you get the regular check from the company and you do what they tell you to do, and they make you a star, and You get to do star stuff. They would like that better. I don't do that. First of all, you can't trust those guys. They'll make you a star this week, but next week they'll say, I don't like his hairdo anymore. Get him out of here. Engineering talent, provide the recording facilities, buy the tape. I pay to make the record. And then I pay, at this point, capital to press and ship. It is their duty. They don't do any promotion. In fact, I don't do any promotion either. We just do it and set it out there. They press it, ship it, and then collect from the retailers. So nobody can tell me what to put on a record. They can't say I don't like those lyrics. They can't say I don't like that tune. They can't say this is too weird. Don't put it out. I have the freedom to express myself.
I feel extremely enigmatic and impossible to pinpoint, and I still don't know quite what to say to him sometimes. I still, after 20 years, get nervous when he walks into the room. I don't even know why. It's just like, oh, here's Frank. Hi, Mr. Zappa. Sometimes I still call him Mr. Zappa. It's I called him that for years and it kind of stuck. And I feel like I'm in the presence of some very special, important individual. And I've always felt that way, and I still do.
Basically, I'm in the idea business, whether it's a spoken idea or a musical idea or something else. It's, in broadest terms, it's the idea business. And if you wind up with a political system that wants to put idea men out of business, then you have worry on your hands.
Republican.
The idea that the lyrics to a song are going to cause antisocial behavior as an exclusive cause of antisocial behavior, I think, is not supportable by science.
The media coverage of that whole thing was pretty slanted. For example, the only part of my testimony that the major news outlets ran was the point at which a nearly apoplectic Senator Slade Gorton told me I didn't know anything about the First Amendment or the U.S. Constitution.
The bill seeks to keep you from seeing, renting, buying, or listening to material described as depicting illicit sex.
If somebody tricks you into believing that you have to give permission to any form of government, city, state, federal, whatever, to create any sort of an information controlling agency, they'll start with pornography and wind up with everything else.
This is censorship.
Okay, so what? My kids, even though they have a very tenuous world to look forward to, they're equipped for it in their own way. Because they were raised with some advantages, not just economic advantages, but other types of advantages that I didn't have.
What makes my father unique is that if I was to go to someone else's house or home and see their father, they're if they're involved in music or something, they usually have their child, they don't allow them to speak freely or, say what's on their mind. Or a lot of their kids, or their fathers will be on drugs or something, which is really scary. So, and like my father doesn't do that kind of stuff.
Really expect that we're ever going to get a hit single on the radio. It has happened a couple of times by accident, but radio and MTV being what they are, there's virtually no room in those worlds for what I do. I make them crazy. They don't want to know. When that record comes in the door, they don't want to know about it because they're afraid of what's said on the records. There's it's a matter of sheer terror here. If you could fix your life and you could go back and tweak all your mistakes, you might wind up with a perfect score, but you might not have had the same interesting life. I think that I've had, so far, pretty interesting life. I've got a chance to do a bunch of stuff that was right out there on the fringe of science. Things that, interesting. But the mistakes are part of it, and You can bang yourself in the head for saying or doing certain things in your life, but if you're honest about it, you'd have to say it's all part of the package.